And guess what? During Shakespeare's time, a lot of students don't know this, but during Shakespeare's time, there was a type of character called the Machiavel. The Machiavel was a scheming, devilish type of character, deceptive, named after Niccolo Machiavelli. Macbeth is a Machiavel to a certain extent. He's not a two-dimensional caricature. He's very three-dimensional, but he has many of the characteristics of a Machiavel. His deceptiveness, his decisions to murder Banquo, murder Duncan, and his decision to murder Lady Macduff and the children. Bad, 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 bad. You know. So Macbeth, is it topic one?
Yeah.
Cool. Let's have a look at that. Okay, and it's redraft, right?
Yeah.
Lovely. Plan looks good because I remember you did the first plan by yourself, didn't you?
Yeah.
Great. Excellent. Very, very good. Right. How many words have you written? 730. All right, cool. Now, just from experience, I always found it very difficult with Macbeth to keep my word count under, like, to be honest with you, to get close to 900, I found very challenging. Really, really, I
I
had to
did
like,
my diagnostic, like
sorry?
the thousand, like under 1,000 words for my diagnostic.
Yeah. I'm just thinking that Macbeth might be one of those texts that may need a little bit more. But let's see, right? Let's see, inshallah. Okay. So do you want to go ahead and read it for me?
Yeah. O valiant cousin, worthy gentleman, beginning with King Duncan's praise of Macbeth, which highlights Macbeth's initial honour and the dramatic irony of his later betrayal. Set in the Jacobean Macbeth reflects contemporary concerns about the divine right of kings and the chaos that results from regicide, as well as beliefs in the supernatural. With these ideas in mind, this essay will explore how Shakespeare presents Macbeth's character, focusing on his unrestrained ambition in the beginning, the psychological effects of his actions seen in his hallucinations, and his descent into cruelty as he struggles to maintain power. At the beginning of the play, Macbeth's initial ambition is presented through his encounter with the witches. For example, in Act 1, Scene 3, the use of direct address and commanding language, speak if you can, what are you, evokes the idea that Macbeth seems to be strong and fierce, but really is anxious due to the multiple pauses in his statement, highlighting the idea that Macbeth is hinting at his transformation. Additionally, the command word speak suggests Macbeth's desire for control and his curiosity about the supernatural. In order to create a sense of relief and trust in Macbeth's abilities to the audience, yet foreshadows his ambition's potential to spiral, instilling a feeling of impending doom in the audience. Shakespeare intentionally crafts Macbeth's initial ambition to resonate with the Jacobean audience's values of honour and loyalty, while also foreshadowing the devastating consequences of unchecked ambition in a society deeply concerned with the divine right of kings and the natural order. Towards the middle of the play, Shakespeare presents Macbeth's hallucinations as a manifestation of his psychological turmoil. For instance, the use of the rhetorical question, "How is't with me when every noise appalls me?" suggests that Macbeth questions himself in a recurring loop and continuously complains about every single noise, but there is no noise in his surroundings, implying that it seems Macbeth is a madman. Specifically, the use of sibilants in the verb appalls portrays an idea that he is in pain, paired with the sibilant to seem like hell has implanted different people in his mind to change to evil, almost like his beginning of his turning point. These worry and unease in the audience, emphasizing the stark contrast between Macbeth's former bravery and his current mental fragility. Shakespeare uses these effects to foreshadow Macbeth's descent into madness, tapping into Elizabethan fears of madness as a consequence of moral corruption. Towards the end of the play, Shakespeare presents Macbeth's descent into cruelty and tyranny, so predominant in your nature that you can let this go, conveys an idea that Macbeth is more confident in his questioning, as there are no pauses in his question. indicating that there is no anxiousness or self-doubt in himself. He, os- he officially has removed the unnecessary feelings in himself, especially the use of direct address. You demonstrates an aggressive challenge to the soldiers, highlighting Macbeth's growing impatience and the consuming darkness within him. Although it might seem brave, is the darkness revealing its power. Consequently, these techniques shift the audience's perception from viewing Macbeth as a noble figure to fearing him due to his rude and confrontational behaviour, which reflects his complete transformation. Shakespeare illustrates Macbeth's transformation to resonate with Jacobean concerns about leadership and the dangers of unchecked ambition, reflecting societal
Anxieties.
anxieties about the moral decay that can arise from the pursuit of power. In conclusion, Shakespeare presents Macbeth through his courage to exemplify the use of rhetorical questions, his inner suffering, do you find your patience and cold-heartedness to those he once trusted. Throughout the play, Macbeth is ambitious, but at the start he hints to be anxious while staying courageous. Continuing this, he hints at his breaking point to change, getting rid of his doubts, until finally he is confident and certain in his decisions, but in a much more cruel tone than before. Shakespeare chose to craft Macbeth this way to show that even the strongest soldiers have a dark passion deep inside. No one knows what goes on inside a person's head, which perhaps made Shakespeare wanting to address this matter. One should not change based on their greed for more. Appreciate what they have, as it can be taken away in just the snap of a finger.
How do you feel about it?
I think it's good, but I feel like I prefer my diagnostic way more.
Really? How come?
I feel like it was just my introduction conclusion that put me down a few marks in my diagnostic, but I feel like I did a bit more perceptiveness in detail in my diagnostic than in my redraft.
Interesting. What did you actually score for this one? Have you done the feedback on it?
Yeah, it was also a grade 9.
Okay, cool. It would be a grade 9 in an actual exam, definitely. Right. So let's go through AO1, AO2, and AO3. How did you feel you did against them?
I think AO1 responding to the text, it was all good. AO2 in analyzing, it was good, but I feel like paragraph 1 needed a bit more perceptiveness, just a bit.
Can you give an example?
Probably like because in paragraph 2 I included like as if hell wanted to like implanted these people inside Macbeth,
Mm-hmm.
making him like hallucinate. And I feel
Mm-hmm.
like I should have added not similar to it, but like that type of perceptiveness into paragraph 1, because
Mm.
I think that paragraph 1 is just of me stating and explaining my language techniques, which is good, but it could be a bit more out of the box.
You've got perceptiveness here, so that's good. So you got suggestions there, beginning of the play, initial mission is present through his counter, which is okay, we'll go through that in a second. What are your evokes there doesn't seems to be strong and fierce, but he's really anxious due to his multiple causes. That's pretty good. I think that's quite good there. What else? You've got that in order to create a sense of release and trust. You've got your effects, that's good. We should resonate with each other. Yeah, so I like the spot honor. That's great. It's got enough. If I'm honest, I mean, if you think that there's something else that you can put in there, then by all means, you can go ahead and try and do that, inshallah. But I wouldn't say there's anything necessarily standing out in terms of perceptiveness for me in all. There's one or two small tweaks that I will go over that I think that I'll suggest to you. But in terms of perceptiveness, I don't think it's bad at all.
Yeah.
Inshallah. So anything else, AO3?
Yeah, that's in like each paragraph, including the conclusion, I think. Maybe not.
I'm not sure about conclusion. Not sure about that. Can't see anything there, but it is in every paragraph.
Yeah.
So got that. So I think it's all right, inshallah. Okay. Just very quickly, what did you mention about your first essay? What did you think could be better in this one if you compare it to that?
I think there was more
Oh, this one's 912 words. You wrote more
yeah.
for this one. Mm-hmm.
I feel like there should be more transitional. Is that the word? The transitions.
Yeah. So discourse markers,
Yeah.
transitional phrases. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I feel like that should be more in the other paragraph because it wasn't as chunky as my paragraph as my diagnostic, so I thought it was less.
One thing I noticed about the second one, you got a little bit less detail and effects. If you notice here, right? So here you said, consequently, the audience may feel relieved because Macbeth is a courageous soldier as he defeats all his enemies. The audience may also feel worried in case this enemy is more difficult to dismantle. Subsequently, Shakespeare perhaps does this to show Macbeth's best trait. Try and say something like illustrates or portray or something. Macbeth's best trait at the play, which the townspeople like him, allowing the reader to feel safe when Macbeth is in a situation. Right. So you got quite a lot about the audience here. There's actually a bit less in the second one. So if I have a look, do you remember how many sentences I suggest you guys write for effects?
At least 2 to 3.
Well, I think two. Because I think that just gives it just a little bit. Just check it. So I think here, for example, you've got one sentence on effects. You've got one here. Although consequently, it may well be enough. I'm not saying it's not enough. I'm just saying that I would encourage you guys to write a bit more because it's one of those areas of writing that it will separate you from the rest, basically. It shows the examiners that you understand how this works, right? Maybe enough. I just think you guys should write a couple of sentences. So I think that's part of where some of the detail has gone, is a bit more on that. Because I think the rest of it is pretty much okay. But some of the sentences need a little bit of work. So if you have a look here, right? Oh, valiant cousin, worthy gentleman, right? Beginning with King Duncan's praise of Macbeth, which highlights Macbeth's initial honor and the dramatic irony of his later betrayal. Can you see that that's not finished?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's a few of them like this. Now, it's not enough to detract from the meaning of the writing. That's when it becomes a problem. But there are a few examples. So it's this one. It was, in order to create a sense of relief and trust in Macbeth's abilities to the audience, yet foreshadows his ambition's potential to spiral, instilling a fear of impending doom in the audience. I actually don't know how to explain it, right? Yet foreshadows, there's no independent clause. That's the technical name for it. Basically, these are all what we call dependent clauses. In other words, they need an additional sentence to be complete, but there's no independent clause. What exactly is it that you're trying to say here in this part?
It's like a relief that every time Macbeth is in a situation, the audience feels like, oh, Macbeth's here, everything's going to be fine, because at the start of the play, he is brave and strong, and everyone praises for him, even the king.
Okay, so you might want to say something like this, right? Because what I'm thinking is missing is actually the author in this particular case, right? So if I add it here, right? So you might say something like this, right? Shakespeare may have intended, and that will solve it. And so Shakespeare may have intended to create a sense of relief and trust in Macbeth's abilities to the audience, while foreshadowing his ambition's potential to spiral, instilling a feeling of impending doom in the audience.
Yeah.
Do you see?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they just needed a little bit. I think it just needed the author's name. I mean, you could even say the author or the playwright. You don't have to say Shakespeare necessarily, because we do have Shakespeare here. So you might get to a point where you might need to just restructure things a bit if you want to avoid the repetition, but it makes sense, right? So we've achieved that goal, inshallah. Let's just check this one as well. Let's see how we correct this one. Oh, valiant cousin, worthy gentleman, beginning with King Duncan's praise, which highlights this and dramatic. Yeah, so again there, although I get a sense of what you're trying to say, because it's missing an independent clause, in other words, a complete sentence, I'm not 100% clear. So do you want to explain to me what it is that you're trying to say there?
Like first it's obviously a hook, so I was trying to like attract readers with the quote, and then trying to explain it, which was King Duncan praised Macbeth to like show the readers, oh, Macbeth is like brave and strong and does help the king, but then with that in mind, he will change.
Cool. Okay, so this is what I would do in this case, right? So something like this, right? So let me go here quickly. All right, so beginning with Duncan's praise of Macbeth, which highlights Macbeth's initial honor. Shakespeare might need a bit of adjusting. I was just trying to think. Shakespeare employs it. Let's say this, right? Shakespeare highlights Macbeth. while setting up the dramatic irony of his later betrayal. Beginning with King Duncan's praise of Macbeth, Shakespeare highlights Macbeth's initial honor while setting up the dramatic irony of his later betrayal. Okay, that's cool, yeah? But in all honesty, I don't know. I generally don't think that you should talk about technique straight away here. It's fine, to be honest with you. It's not really a big deal. I just personally wouldn't do it. I mean, do you know the 4 techniques that I suggest you start a hook with, or you use to hook the audience?
I think it was like metaphor, simile, maybe the setting.
Anything else? It's actually metaphor, quote.
Yeah, metaphor, quote, or maybe a question, rhetorical question.
Could be a question. I quite like questions, if I'm honest with you. Metaphor, simile, or a fact, like a historical fact. And I tend to favor questions and historical, because what you can think about, especially here, right? Like, what's the overall message? One should not change based on their greed for more, appreciate what they have as it can be taken away, just a snap of a finger. Okay, I have an idea for that. Let's have a look. There you go. So what you're talking about there's, I think, is similar to this concept here, right? Yet Shakespeare's tragedy extends beyond a critique of Machiavellian principles. Have you learned about Machiavelli yet? Have you read about him?
No.
Very, very, very key to this story. Very key. I'd advise you to have a look at, you could, if you want to, go to the historical context document. Click on here. Niccolo Machiavelli. In many ways, Macbeth embodies Machiavelli's principles. You can see the image of him. It's quite sneaky. You see that? Yeah, so I'd advise you to read up on Machiavelli. Just check him out. He is really central to the story. I'm surprised that schools don't cover him more, if I'm honest with you, because he's extremely crucial to the narrative. And essentially, why he's important is because, let me just see. There you go. He had principles like this. For Machiavelli, a leader's public image is essential. As he famously noted, everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience who you really are. He had principles like this. And so he wrote a book called Prince for political leaders. And he had very controversial views about what leaders should do. And his view is that there's a reality to life, and that the truth about the world is that people believe what they see. And you have to give people what they want to see if you're a leader. But there is also another truth to life, which is that, especially for a political leader, which is that you have to adapt to the situation at hand. And you may have to do things that make you go against your own virtues, your own morality. That may even include things like theft and murder. And so he was very, very controversial, right? So he said, so here, Macbeth blends elements from all these periods to address both medieval and early modern values while reflecting the political concerns of the Jacobean period. Through this mix, Shakespeare presents a timeless story about ambition, legitimacy, and the potentially devastating effects of power. Simultaneously, the play's focus on individual ambition and moral consequences speaks to Renaissance and early modern themes, questioning traditional notions of authority and the nature of kingship. Thus, Macbeth acts as a bridge between the medieval world's structured hierarchy and the early modern world's emphasis on the complexity of human nature, making it deeply relevant to audiences. Basically, the play is set during the medieval period, but it was written in the early modern period, or the Jacobean period, as we usually call it, right? So what's strange about it is that the play is set 500 years before, and he's writing during this time, during the Jacobean period. And I'm trying to say is that he's using the conflicts and the stories from the medieval period to comment on what's going on during his time, right? So he's setting it in a far off distance time to make it seem like, oh, we're just talking about that time. But what he's doing symbolically through the story is commenting on the problems that he's seeing in their current environment. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So he says here, Niccolo Machiavelli, an influential Italian Renaissance philosopher and political theorist, is best known for The Prince, where he outlines the pragmatic, meaning realistic, and often ruthless approach to ruling. His ideas, groundbreaking and controversial, argue that the ends justify the means, suggesting that a ruler may act immorally or deceptively if it serves to secure or maintain power, act like the innocent flower, but be the serpent under it. There's no art to find the mind's construction in the face. You know that part?
Yeah.
That's what all of this symbolizes, I think, anyway. That's what I think it symbolizes, right? Machiavelli shares the view that the most important good to aim for was honor and glory, but as Indira Gose explains, he believed the key to success was the ability to adapt to the situation at hand. If this requires immoral acts, then so be it. To rule wisely, Machiavelli contended there was no necessity to be virtuous. The important thing was to maintain the appearance of virtue. What counted was the image, not the reality. And guess what? During Shakespeare's time, a lot of students don't know this, but during Shakespeare's time, there was a type of character called the Machiavel. The Machiavel was a scheming, devilish type of character, deceptive, named after Niccolo Machiavelli. Macbeth is a Machiavel to a certain extent. He's not a two-dimensional caricature. He's very three-dimensional, but he has many of the characteristics of a Machiavel. His deceptiveness, his decisions to murder Banquo, murder Duncan, and his decision to murder Lady Macduff and the children. Bad. You know? So I'd advise you to read up on him because the play is really symbolic of his concepts in many ways. It is symbolic of what Niccolo Machiavelli actually thought, right? There are some other interesting things as well about, let's just check here. Oh, yeah. A lot of people don't know that there was skepticism about witches. You know, a lot of people just assume that everybody just believes in witches, but that's not necessarily the case. There was skepticism about it. You know, not everybody agreed in this idea that witches control all supernatural events. And I don't think that, I think that the play reflects the skepticism. In some parts, they seem to be supernatural, but in some parts, they don't. Like in the beginning, when they say, fair is foul, foul is fair, and then they have all the thunder and lightning, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. But then they argue over things like chestnuts, for example. You know, it's like, that's such a petty thing. And even their language, when you see it, right, it's got a particular metrical pattern, it's trochaic tetrameter, right? And they speak in rhyming couplets and all this stuff. It seems eerie and supernatural, but actually, if you read it another way, it could just sound really childish. And then Banquo says, you should be women, but your beards forbid me to interpret. He's pointing out that there are actors on stage with beards. It's like embedded stage directions. And I think one of Shakespeare's favorite techniques is, meta theater is like a play within a play, right? Here, meta theatrical techniques. Okay, so read that. It's also in the booklet about all the techniques. It's in there as well, right? And I think why Shakespeare's doing that is to point out that the witches are just characters on stage. They're played by actors. I think what Shakespeare's trying to do within the play is to prompt the question of whether or not witches were actually real in real life. Because I just get this impression he didn't believe in witches. I just get the impression, but you couldn't necessarily say that during Shakespeare's time because he could have got into serious trouble. There's another book by a lady called Claire Asquith. What's her name? What's the name of the book? Oh, Shadow Play. Called Shadow Play. And Shadow Play is about the possibility that Shakespeare's plays contain a lot of hidden messages and a lot of political hidden messages. I don't know if it's true, it's not true, but that's what that book is about. And I just have this feeling that that's what he's saying about the witches. And so that's what I argue. Like you see the essay I did about the witches, that's what I argue in there. I think there's enough evidence in the text and the context to make it a very compelling argument. And that's what, if I were writing an essay in an exam, that's exactly what I would write. Exactly what I would write. I would indicate to the examiner I'm going against the normal interpretation here. This is my interpretation. I don't agree with the normal one. So in the introduction, I will say, although it's commonly assumed that they're supernatural and powerful, I think if you look closely at the text, there's enough supporting evidence to suggest that actually the opposite is true, that they're not. And Shakespeare didn't believe that. That's what I'll argue, right? Anyway, so going back to this thing that we were talking about, right? So here, I think this concluding sentence needs a little bit more power, okay? One should not change based on the greed for more, appreciate what they have as it can be taken away. I think what you're saying is similar to this here, right? But a little bit more. So it says, yet Shakespeare's tragedy extends beyond a critique of Machiavellian principles. It also reflects the medieval Christian notion that humans should scorn transient earthly pleasures, such as honor and glory, demonstrating that what appears fair may actually be foul. Ultimately, as the Macbeth comes to realize, this misperception can doom us to a life of suffering and regret. So I think you might want to just go over that again and just have a look at that concluding sentence. Go back and read some of the stuff that I've written in the essays and just borrow ideas, reword them, change them, add things to them, take things away. Think about what you like, you don't like, what you agree with, what you don't agree with. Read behind them as well. You've done so much writing that I think you're well ahead of most other students. So I think you've got enough time to actually maybe do a bit of reading on these things. Read the historical document as well. There's a lot of stuff in there. The context is extremely important to try and understand deeply. And then have a look at this booklet as well on his techniques. Have a look at this as well. It goes into lots of detail about form, structure, tragedy, symbolism, echoes of Jacobean fears. Like literally everything is there, inshallah. All right?
Yeah.
But it's really good. I mean, to not knowing anything about Macbeth a few weeks ago to writing a grade 9 essay right now, couldn't really ask for more, to be honest with you, inshallah. So just keep refining the ideas, read those and see what's interesting for you. Try read those two, the historical context document and the one about techniques, and then think about like where you might apply these in an essay, right? And try go back and just review what we spoke about, the sentence structures and the 2 sentences about effects. I'd say just add those in before you move on to something else, inshallah. Can you do that?
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else?
Yeah. For the model answers that you prepared for like Macbeth and like all the other literatures, do I need to like memorize all of them or do I just make an essay plan?
Well, what I want you to do is memorize your own answers. But what I want you to do is use these to build ideas, basically. I mean, at the end of the day, if you want to memorize them, no problem. But obviously, what will be more satisfying for you is when you write your own answers, and then you've got this thing that you've created, even if you've borrowed ideas, and then that's what you really want to memorize because you've already thought about it. So it's already in your memory. It's just that you'll need to just strengthen your memory about it when you get close to the exam. So in an ideal situation, you're going to do your own. But these are there just to help you build ideas. That's all, basically, inshallah. Make sense?
Yeah.
You're more than capable of doing that anyway, so you'll be totally fine, inshallah.
Would it be that the exam chooses the one of the model answers I would prepare, or would it be a whole different question, like not from the model, all the model answers?
Do you know what was in the last exam?
I think it was ambition last time.
Chances are it's going to be one of these. You know, one cool thing about AQA, they don't have a pattern of trying to trick the students. They will ask you about something that is well known about the text. Chances are they'll ask about Macbeth. If they don't ask about Macbeth, it'll be Lady Macbeth or one of the other major characters. Banquo, the witches, maybe, possibly Duncan. But I think Macbeth, Lady Macbeth, Banquo, or the witches. I think these ones have a very high chance of coming up. If it's not one of these, it's going to be one of the key themes. So we've just had ambition. They could ask it again. AQ is not shy of asking about the major themes. They could ask about ambition again. So just learn it anyway. It could be violence. I don't think they'll ask you about appearances versus reality, but I would advise you to learn it anyway. This is my opinion. I think the play is about appearances versus reality. I think appearances versus reality is more primary than all these other themes, because all these other themes are underpinnings of appearances versus reality. Appearance versus reality is the major theme. Nothing in the play is as it seems to be. Nothing. Witches are not as they seem to be. Macbeth is not really a hero. Lady Macbeth is not really a strong feminine character. She's actually very weak in many ways. Duncan is not a great king. Ambition is not what it seems to be. Kingship is not what it seems to be. I think the whole play is about that. And I think that's why the witches say it so early in the play. Fair is foul and foul is fair. That's why I think you guys should learn that first. Even if the question in the exam is not about that, I still think you should learn about it. And think about, because you think about what's the beginning of a story about? It's about establishing the core themes, right? And what is the thing that the witches say at the end? And Shakespeare even puts it into a rhyming couplet, as if to say, like, pay attention. Fair is foul and foul is fair, hover through the fog and filthy air. That rhyming couplet is intentional to make you focus. And by the end of the play, Macbeth, what does he say? All our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. What's he saying? He's saying, you know what? I've come to the realization that all the things we did in the past are foolish. This is not what it seems to be. This whole thing about being king, it's not that great. In fact, I've had enough of it. He's ready to die. It's so bad, he's become nihilistic. It truly is about things that could be fair, actually foul, and things that may seem foul could actually be fair. And what was foul for him was the idea that we shall go no further in this business. He told his wife, didn't he? When was it? Act 1, was it Act 2, Scene 2 or something? We shall go no further in this business. He knew it from the beginning, but he decided to go against his own intuition that this is wrong, partly because of Lady Macbeth, because she's like, are you not a man? Are you not brave? What's wrong with you? It's partly because of that. But he knew from the beginning it was wrong. That's part of the tragedy. Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah? So read through it. But I would advise you read the historical document. Just a few pages each day or some couple of pages. It'll help you, inshallah. All right?
Yeah.
Anything else?
So if let's say that there was no, like, the model answers that I've revised for, let's say that it's a whole different question, should I still have 3 quotes that can be used in all the exams, like regardless of the question, it can still be used?
Well, if you look at the pattern of what I've done here, right, try to identify the really key scenes, right? So, for example, Macbeth, Tomorrow and Tomorrow's Soliloquy, I'm sure you could use it in many different questions, many. Because remember, in that soliloquy, he's encapsulating what he now understands about the world, right? So remember, in your stories, you have to indicate what your protagonist has learned by the end, right? He's telling you what he's learned there through his experience. All his regrets, all the mistakes, he's explaining it explicitly. And he's indirectly warning the audience not to make the same mistakes as him. That Tomorrow's Soliloquy in many ways encapsulates the meaning of the story. So, for example, in that case, I think that is a scene you must practice analyzing. Must. And if you look at the model answer that I've written, a lot of them contain analysis from that scene. Tomorrow's Soliloquy. A lot of them, right? Then you'll just have to figure out what are the other key ones. I think fair is foul and foul is fair. I think that's key. All of the ones about deception, act like the innocent flower, but be the serpent under it. There's no art to find the mind's construction in the face. My gosh, I even remember these things on my head. Oh my God. All these really, really key scenes, right? And so one of the things that I did was when I did this, I intentionally repeated certain ideas throughout many different essays to show you can use the same idea many, many different times if it's like a key scene. But to say 3 that would work in any, I'm not sure. But the key is this, right? Learn the protagonist first, and then the next most important character, then the next most important one, then the most important themes. And while you're doing that, try do this. Try intentionally and consciously see which quotes you can reuse in multiple different questions, which is what I've done here. If you go through it, you're going to see I've used the same quotes many, many different times, or variations of those same quotes. I've used them over and over again. The thing about Machiavelli, I used it over and over again. There's parts about, I don't know if you know this, where is he? There he is again, right? Gosh, it's actually quite graphic. I actually forgot how graphic this is. What I also find quite fascinating about this, a lot of satanic imagery. And it's obviously not promoting Satanism, it's actually warning the audience of entangling your ambitions with evil intentions, basically. It's basically what it's warning the audience. Let me just check. Duncan, read the essay on Duncan. He's not the good guy that everyone says he is. He's basically an old version of Macbeth. How he got to the throne is exactly how Macbeth got to the throne. He's just old, that's all. So he just doesn't do it anymore. But everything Macbeth did, he did as well. Yeah, I was gonna try and find you some imagery of when the imagery is quite cool, isn't it? Macbeth is a hero. Trying to show you the part where Macbeth becomes associated with Satan at the end. Satan symbolizes Satan. This is one of the, well, he's obviously associated with the Machiavelli, isn't he? But come on, man, where is it? Where did I put all this stuff? Yeah, Lady Macbeth suffering. She suffers, quite tragic. Oh, anyway, I mean, Macbeth basically becomes associated. At the end, there's a character, his last companion. Do you remember the name of his last companion? There he is. Satan. Yeah. Macbeth's last companion. Satan. Or is it Satan? We don't know. It's spelled Seyton. Is it Satan or Satan? Who knows? But it was conventional during Shakespeare's time where the tragic hero at the end would be associated with the devil. So Shakespeare keeps that convention in the play. Make sense? All right. Shall we call it a night?
Yeah.
Yeah. But you've done really well. Inshallah. Just go through it, inshallah, okay?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right, Simon, well done, Parasha. See you soon, okay?
Thank you. Yeah, I love this.
I love it.